I will indeed, yeah. Hi everybody. I'm the Managing Director of Kavaleer Productions, based in Dublin. And I just thought I'd kind of give you a quick look at kind of a timeline really, if everybody can see this, of what Kavaleer have done in the past, what we're doing currently, and where we want to be in the next 3 to 4 years. So, as you can see, we've got, our first show was Lifeboat Luke back in 2006. And then, parallel to a lot of service work, we kind of gradually went our way into IP, moving into our own show, Gareth and Bev, in 2007, 2008. And then again, co-production with UK Adidas. And then we had kind of a dip for about a year or two, and this tends to happen when you're developing your own projects. And we moved into service work. I won't call it a dip, but we kind of didn't necessarily get our own show off the ground. And then moving quickly on to 2014, we did one of our biggest co-productions, Bodge, with CBeebies. And in tandem to that, we had Wilderness, which is our own IP. The next 3 to 4 years, we're hoping to develop 2 to 3 shows. Our flagship show at the moment is a preschool series called Kiva Can Do, and we're hoping to close the funding on this show by May. So that's where Kavaleer are today, and we'd be happy to talk to students afterwards about possible jobs at Kavaleer in the future. Thank you.
My name is Darragh, and I'm the creative director with Brownback Films in Dublin. And we generally have about 5 productions going at once. And right now we're doing, we just started on Document Stuff in season 4. We're doing Peter Rabbit season 2, Henry Hugger Monster season 2, Octonaut season 4, and we've just got a series greenlit with Amazon called The Stinky and Dirty Show that's just starting this week. And we are primarily a CGI studio, so we just we concentrate on our 3D pipeline in Dublin, but we've just opened a studio in Manchester in the UK that is going to be a 2D Toon Boom harmony pipeline, and we've just started our first production there.
Great. Yes, hi, it's yeah, very prolific bunch. This fellow over here, it's all a shame. But I'm Paul Young from Cartoon Saloon. We started 16 years ago. We'll be sweet 16 this summer sometime. We're going to have a sweet 16 birthday. I'm expecting a Porsche. I'll be very angry from Daddy. So we're 16 years old. We started with like Secret of Kells and Skunk Fu. We just screened Song to See last night. I hope somebody got to see it last night in the church. And great. And in the cinema, and so we're doing Puff and Rock, as you might have seen earlier that Tim mentioned. So we're 16 years going. We have a couple of things in development, and we're starting a new film in June called The Breadwinner that Nora Toomey is going to direct, and that's set in Afghanistan about a little girl who has to cut her hair and dress like a boy to be the breadwinner for her family. So yeah, that's us sort of in a nutshell. So I'll pass you with Colin here.
Are these mics working? Oh, they are. Hi, I'm Colin from 16 South. I'm the creative director and founder of the company, and we're probably the babies in the panel. We're running it. We're going about 7 years. 7 years. Started off in puppetry, and we partnered with Sesame Workshop, making a show called Sesame Tree, and then we kind of went on. We made a show called Big City Park after that for CBeebies. We took over the production of Big and Small after that, which another puppet show for BBC, along with our partners on that, Kindle. I co-produced a show called Pajamanals with the Jim Henson Company. It was our 4th show, and that goes out across the world, and it's been well received. It's a really young show for 2 and 3 year olds. Again, puppetry. All 4 of these being puppet shows, and. If you were at the session, Tim's session earlier, you saw Lily Surfoot Bay, and Lily Surfoot Bay is our first animated show at 16 South, and it's been doing really well. It airs in about 20. It's been sold in about 20 key countries now, and we've been doing that, working hard on making that happen. It also starts in RT as well, RT Junior on the 30th of March, and that's the first time we've actually announced that. That's really exciting to have it on RT, and obviously Nick Jr. as well, and it's sort of on Netflix. It starts on Netflix in May. So I suppose for us the future looks kind of in lots of shapes and sizes. You know, we're developing a book property called Claude at the moment with a global broadcaster. It's hopefully going to green light. We're about to close another 80-part animated series for an American network. And we've got 3 or 4 other things on our slate. So the stuff that we're doing at the moment is mostly animation, but also we've a nice puppet show and a nice high-end live action show as well. And for us, it's really it's all about storytelling. You know, what we all share in common, of course, is those 3 things. You know, the Irish, we have a natural ability to tell stories. We're passionate about what we do, and we like to party and have a wee drink or 2. That's kind of what sets us apart from everybody else in the world. So that's us.
I'm Stephen Fagan. I'm from a company called Treehouse Republic, and we're actually the youngest. We're actually 4.5 years, so we're the youngest, so we get forgotten, so it's horrible. No, we're a little bit different. Our focus is on dangerously funny action comedy for boys 7 and upwards. So our whole thing is based on the principle that running and laughing is the funniest thing you can ever do. So all our comedy is literally aimed at boys. It's all like shows that are like a lot of action, a lot of comedy just mashed together. The studio's 4.5 years old, as I said. We work on a lot of service stuff, like we do a lot of interactive, commercial, and we're looking to do more like TV production service work as well. The difference is with us, I think, is that we're the youngest. We sort of know a little bit. We're in that space of just developing the company and growing, and knowing who we are as a studio. And it's probably a different stage from you guys, because you've probably been where we are at now and know a lot more.
We're still there, man.
We're still there. Don't tell us that, you know. But we're in a space now where we're a studio that's about to get a lot bigger. We've got 2 projects on the slate at the minute that are going really well. One's called Epic Eric. It's about a superhero who got shrunk down to being a 12-year-old boy and has to learn to grow up all over again. And the other one's called Dragon Fist, which is about a guy who's given the most awesome power in the world. It's 2 great gauntlets of awesomeness, and he has to kick the crap out of a lot of aliens and have a lot of comedy in the meantime. So that's us.
I'm Gerard from Geronimo. We're going 20 years. So I started my career back in the day with Saloon with Studios. And I was just thinking about at lunchtime, when we used to shoot animation, we used to do it on closed circuit TV, security cameras, put it onto VHS, and that's how the system worked and how it's changed. But one of the biggest things I learned working in Saloon with Studios, because it was a fantastic studio. I don't know if people are familiar with the movies they made, like Thumbelina, Rockadoodle, All Dogs Go to Heaven. They did 2 movies with Spielberg. That's probably him.
Sorry, Gerard, they said you haven't saved the best for last.
We'll see. Put 'em up. So yeah, they made Land Before Time and American Tail. One of the interesting things that I noticed, the Saloon Studio was 500 people in its day in Ireland, and it was a fantastic studio and a great training ground for animators. But it lost its way in storytelling, and it probably was the demise of the studio, that it made beautiful animation, but it didn't have great stories, and I think that's probably what killed it in the end. So that was something when I set up Geronimo after Saloon Blue closed in 1995, and it was around the same time that John Coates had made a snowman, and I had the fortunate experience to meet him. And he told me, you know, story, lock your reel, and tell your story, and once you do that, everything else will happen. So that's something that I've always taken into Geronimo and what we try to do. It took us 10 years to get our first show, having done many different production gigs along the way and made many short films. And we were fortunate to work with the great Richard Briers on an iconic show from the 70s called Rhubarb and Custard. And we made series 2 of that, and it was an absolute pleasure to work with that gentleman. He recently passed away. What Geronimo does to try and differentiate itself from the other companies and to find its space in the market is to find shows that that aren't out there. You know, Disney do a certain brand of shows, and certain broadcasters have certain things. And as an independent company, we try to punch through with something that's different, and that's always difficult. But if you look at the type of projects we've made, we did a fantastic show 2 years ago about astronomy for kids called Planet Cosmo. Jason Tamamagi created it with us. We found that there was no astronomy for children of a preschool age, and we made a fantastic series. So we were able to do something we believed in, something that we felt that was needed in the marketplace, and make a series about it. We made a series called Punky. It's the first show in the world where the main character is a person with a disability. The little girl has Down syndrome. It's played by a girl with Down syndrome, and everything is seen from her point of view, and it's gone to sell around the world. It was a brave move to make a show like that, and it's been received really well. And it's not a show that you typically see. Disney wouldn't do it, or, you know. So it's great as an independent company and working with RTE to get programs like that out there. And my aim in making Punky was that it would sit between Peppa Pig and Ben and Holly in a mainstream block, but was telling children that it's okay to have a disability, or people who have a disability are actually people first, disability second. So we got a whole message through making a show like that. So they're the things that really excite us at Geronimo. We have another series called Ballybraden. It's an animated drama based on the school hurling team. So again, this isn't an anti-Disney bashing, but if that was a Disney show, Ballybraden would have won the school hurling championship final. We get them the whole way to the final and they lose. You know, so because most kids don't win, you know, and it's nice for that to be reflected in their cartoons. So again, that was a show that was backed heavily by RTE and has done phenomenally well on that channel, and it's great to be able to produce stuff like that. Our current show, again, Looking for the Edge, is based around the Irish weather. So 2 years ago, came up with an idea. You know, we're obsessed as a nation with the weather. Why don't we make a show about the weather? And to our surprise, we found out that nobody else has ever made a show about the weather, the Irish weather. And you can have 52 different weather experiences any one day, because we've made 52 episodes. So we have 2 Irish girls on a perpetual summer holiday in a camping park on a farm beside the beach, exploring the outdoors, whatever the weather. And that show has just gone massive for us. It was picked up obviously with RTE first, Film Board and the BAI. CBeebies picked it up and it's premiering on CBeebies in May. Walker Books secured the publishing rights. BBC Worldwide are selling it internationally. It's going to be an Irish postage stamp next week, and it's been sold around the world. So by looking for something that gives you an edge will actually help you get out into the marketplace, I think. I think you all guys look, was any of you here born before 1995, no? No? You. But I think, you know, trying to find shows that excite you rather than copying what's in the marketplace. I think if you look at too many channels and try to say, I can make a show like that or make a show better than that, I think you're going straight down the wrong path. Find something creatively that you believe in, be passionate about it, and just go for it. And I think that's the way to succeed in this business. It's very hard. There's a lot of failure. There's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of very tough times. But I think if you stick with it, the rewards will come your way. So, Geronimo.
Maybe it was working.
Yeah. You spoke a little bit at lunch, and you've kind of answered the question there somewhat about, you know, our audience needs people leaving college, and they might go the avenue of working with one of these producers, hopefully, or you might want to go out on your own. So, if you guys were back there again, do you have any tips or advice for these guys starting out? Can we start with you again?
Yeah, me again. Yeah, I think there's 2 things you can do. I remember when we started up, and Paul Young and the guys from Cartoon Saloon were running around town with the Secret of Kells and trying to get going, and I was looking at them, and they were hopelessly running around town for a year or 2 trying to find something to do, but they stuck with it and got us together, and they were very passionate that they wanted to make this movie, and that they knew that they wanted to, they knew what they wanted, and you know, within a very short period of time, they found what they wanted to do. And you know, I think they could have come to one of the other studios and tried to work with us, but I think they had their own belief in themselves. So I think there's 2 ways you can do it. You can have that passion, set up in yourself and follow your dream with your project. Or also you can partner with any of the other studios and bring your ideas to them. I think the biggest thing to do is to get your idea out and don't keep it at home in the top drawer in your bedroom. If you don't have the ability to set up a company, or that's not for you, then I think you should, you know, it's up to you to call to studios, get your idea in front of the producers, and let them see your passion. And I think if they see your passion, I think you'll find that you'll get a warm reception. And then plan B, or plan A, is also get some colleagues together, set up your own and go for it. There's plenty of support agencies in Ireland. The Irish Film Board are always at hand helping with short films. Enterprise Ireland and Animation Ireland are very supportive groupings. So I think there's plenty of opportunities. I think you just need to kind of focus, pick a path and go for it. They would be the two main areas that I would say if you're going to start off and you just don't want a job. If you've got a project and you want to do something yourself, that's the routes I would go down.
I would add just to, because you mentioned it again, that you know, and ideas, and just to say, like, ideas are, like, people have lots of great ideas and they think they're great, but it's really about the execution of an idea. So a big part of our start was the collaboration we had with other people, because even if you have a small idea that might not be much when you start out, working with some other people you trust, even people you know in college, and because animation is a very collaborative medium, so get your team early on and share it with everybody. There's no point keeping it to yourself. People will add to it. Every step along the way, every iteration when you work with a new person that you like brings a different level of quality. So that's the big thing. And if you want to start yourself, and that's the same for going into another studio. That's what
but I'd say, like, the whole idea of collaboration is not something that ever goes away. I mean, right now you're working professionally, it doesn't matter who you're working with, it's still about collaboration. And if you have an idea and it's in your head all the time, sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees, and you having to say it out loud and having to pitch it makes you figure out what works and doesn't work with the idea. I mean, if you're just, the more you say it out loud, the better you get at knowing your own idea.
Yeah, and so I think, kind of add to what Darragh was saying there as well, I think don't be too precious either, because, you know, if you kind of project, even Kavaleer now today, we've got like one of our projects that's been with us for like 4 or 5 years, and we kind of shifted around, shopped around, and we pitched a lot of people. But I'd say for the first 2 years, we kind of were blinkered and we kept it within our own studio, and it was the best project we ever had. But I think by opening it up to other people, they'll get negative feedback, and negative feedback is as valuable, is more valuable than the positive, because people will also tend to kind of control alt delete to the positive and go, your project's amazing, but they won't tell you what's wrong with it. So I think, as Darragh said, the sooner you kind of get out and kind of share with people, the better. So.
Yeah. And don't start animating until you've done lots of boarding. Fail fast and fail early, and keep making the story and showing it to people until they get it and it's right, and then start animating. We've all made the mistake of doing that, so we may as well give you that piece of information. You know, don't start too soon.
There's also a thing, what the lads are saying, like, the greatest quite supports of RTE, Film Board, Enterprise Ireland, like there. But animation studios in Ireland are brilliant, and from the youngest studio out here, like, we've had so much help from the other guys in other studios. Like, there's not a competitive industry in the sense that you show your idea, someone's going to rob it. As Paul was saying, it's all about execution, and it's a case that if you have a great idea and you have people there that can execute it really well, they're going to help you, and if they're not going to do it with you, they're going to give you the right guidance to do it with you. And like, we found that a lot. Anyone we ask for help, like that, people will say they're not your competitors. They're not. They're actually people that help us more than anything else. So don't be afraid to have an idea and ask someone for help. And it's the best thing you can learn to do.
I think you're totally right. I mean, I think, you know, what we have in Ireland, you know, and John's, you know, yeah, okay, we're from Belfast, but, you know, we're not, you know, we share the same piece of land, you know, and what we all have.
Getting teary-eyed.
It's getting there, you know, it's getting there.
Island nation.
But I mean, what we share, and I think you only really start to see this when you go to the markets and you're pitching, you know, you pitch and you pitch and you pitch. You know, the things that I mentioned earlier, that whole thing about passion, the whole thing about storytelling, they're things which are intrinsically part of who we are as people, and that's something which you have no idea how precious that is. You know, and I don't know how you feel about yourselves or how you feel about who we are and where we're from. You know, we're stuck at the very edge of Europe, and when you go to the markets and pitch, you know, you'll find that the only way sometimes to get a show off the ground is to sell it to lots of different countries and sell it to. You know, I closed 12 countries on Driftwood Bay before we actually had the money together to make it, and that takes that's a lot of hard work. And I suppose it's easy to think, oh, we're from Ireland, you know, we're not from London, or we're not from the States, you know, who's going to buy a show off us? You've no idea what you carry, and what you carry in terms of you as a person, and the culture which is part of you is massive. And you know, Tim was saying, you know, Nickelodeon. I kind of joked last night and said, is Nickelodeon going to, you know, turn from orange to green? There's another kind of loaded, just in case you were sleeping there, you know. But you know, it's you know, there's so much good stuff coming from this part of the world. We're not, you know, I don't see any of these guys as competitors. You know, I see them as friends. You know, and it's a community that we're all part of. You know, you're pitching against people in New York. You're pitching against people in Singapore. So you know, you don't, you know, when there's a community here, you can treasure that. The other, I think the biggest single piece of advice I could give you, and it's something which we have to keep reminding ourselves, is that the word no, when someone says no, it's not really a no. Because a no is not always a no. In fact, a no is sometimes a yes, but it's not a yes just at that moment.
It's very political.
Selective hearing is what you're really talking about.
Well, we pitched a show to a broadcaster. In fact, we pitched a show to a broadcaster, and the broadcaster said no, and we showed it to them maybe again, said no, and then we showed it at Cartoon Forum, and they said yes, and actually nothing changed. It was exactly the same thing, and. So a no is not always a no, and when you go and you get turned down, don't take it to heart, and just you got to keep believing.
And keep showing up. That was one of the best advice I got.
Yeah.
Just get out to the markets. If you best way to educate yourself about how shows are made, or actually take a trip. And schools should probably do this. Get the students out to more events like even MIPCOM, even just to look at the place. Because we were very naive when we started. We had no idea. Myself and Tom showed up in MIPCOM. We're like, how did all this stuff get made?
It's just like an ant farm.
Posters. Yeah. But you learn a lot very quickly about how it all gets made by just talking to people.
You were saying you'd meet people like 7 times.
Yeah, there's somebody told me at one time, and it actually was real.
Yeah.
Somebody said, you got to meet people 7 times before you'll ever do business. And I actually counted this deal, and it was about 7 times, because it takes a long time to do animation, a long time you're in business with other people and partners, and the collaboration doesn't start within your own studio, because the reality is, to make a feature film or a TV series, sometimes you actually have to co-produce with other studios. So that collaboration continues. And it's kind of like, I guess, people need to see that you're still around 7 years later, that you haven't gone bust, or your company's still there, you're serious about what you're doing. And then they go, okay, I'll give you some work, or I'll do this.
Another kind of idea as well, I think what Colin was saying as well, like a good idea is great, but I think doing the market research as well is important, because you can tend to kind of pitch an idea. We pitched an idea years ago, and it was like a dogs, it was Jumbo Dog Trio. It was one of the first shows we pitched at Cartoon Forum. It just turned out, and we were starting out, and it was kind of our own IP, and it was like 4 dog shows that year. You know, and if we a little bit of research, we would have known that dogs were kind of in that year. And so I think, if you do your market research and to spend time, we spend a lot of time on kind of Google, obviously, checking out, meeting with people at MIP, talking to other studios who's got ideas similar. And sometimes shows are similar, but there might be a little tweak here and there that might make it work. So that would be another piece of advice I would definitely give you.
Okay, thanks so much. So everybody's got what to say. We did want to open this particular session up to you guys and give you an opportunity to ask questions. Before we do, I'd just like to say it's great to see so many females in the audience. Because we need some more of that up here.
It's a bit like a submarine. I remember when we started our studio, it really was like a submarine. It was like it was all boys, and it's so amazing now. There is about 70%, 80% women in Cartoon Saloon now, and it's like people have started putting deodorant on. There's flowers around. It's great.
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
So, does anybody have any questions for these guys?
Just so whenever you're making a student film, would you encourage a collaboration, and if you do, to what extent?
I would really encourage it. I think probably one of the shining light studios are colleges. Actually, we've brilliant colleges in Ireland, but one of the around Europe, the Animation Workshop in Denmark, I think there's a fantastic thing where they do collaborate together on a film, and those films are like Pixar shorts sometimes when they come out of there, and that was. I'm not sure what happens, but they do collaborate really well. So I think if you find people that you like and you trust and you see their talents, definitely, because that's what it has to be. When you're in reality, unless you're like a one-man short film show, you're going to be working with other people. Better to learn that pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it's very important to have that kind of collaboration early on, because you're going to be touching every aspect of producing, you know, so it's from production manager, producer, art director, and how you actually work together, and particularly under a deadline, and also even more so under the kind of extreme budgets, because all those, it's like a kind of a slice of what's to come with larger production. So I think you're cutting your teeth on a short is a really good training ground. So.
It's actually a lot about learning how to respect other people's roles. When you're in a creative space and everyone wants to be the director, everyone wants to be the art director and the producer, you get a lot of egos coming out, and it's in a sort of professional sense it's difficult, but it's a great way to learn how to respect your role, other people's role, trust them, what they're doing, so you can do your job better. Doing collaborations in college is a great way to do it, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to have a really great piece, but it's all about really respecting what people are doing and helping them, support and contributing to them as much as they're contributing to you, and really being aware of that when you're doing it. It's the best tip I've ever learned, is really respect other people's roles and help them and support them as much as possible, because they'll do the same for you, and then your work will get better because of it.
Yeah, and it's like I was saying earlier on about pitching and always saying your ideas out loud. If you can convince other people to collaborate on your project and put their time into your work, I mean, then you're doing a great job of bringing people along with you. And I think, look, even when you're working professionally, it is still about teamwork, but it's always about collaboration and just making people as involved as they can be. And the more somebody loves a project, the more work they're going to put into it. So starting right at college is exactly the way.
And the best directors out there are directors who are confident enough to hear every opinion, like listen to everything, and then go, right, I'm going to go this way. But I've heard all the criticisms. I put up my work, I put up the story, I take all the flack from everybody, and be able to confident enough then to go, I'm going to make this choice now because I'm being informed.
No, absolutely. And you know, look, I consider myself very lucky. I mean, I was in college with Gary and with John Rice there, and quite a few people in the room here. And the very first short film I ever made was in my first year of college, and I made it with Richie Bainham. And Richie at the time, he was a couple of years older than us, and he was quite a contrary young man and would always tell you what was wrong with your stuff, but in a very good way. We were straight out. We were used to coming out of school where you were the best at art and you were brilliant at drawing and everybody's telling you how good you are, and then you get into college and you go, yeah, it's a bit shit really. I mean, you could do that a lot better, you know. And hearing that though, at first it sort of grates, but it's the most valuable thing you can hear, like getting that constructive criticism, as long as it's constructive and it's well meant. But
looking back, he was right.
He was dead right, yeah. I mean, he was dead right. But it's just having that collaboration, yeah, it's invaluable, I think.
Yeah, I just think like everything the lads say is absolutely bang on the money. I think, you know, the most important part, if somebody sends in a CV, it's straight to the Vimeo link, or, you know, like Dunleary College, I know for years put in all the final year films into the Galway Film Flab, and, you know, people who get their projects made on time and show up and get it into that's, you know, they've achieved something, you know, and that, as a producer, if we're looking to get people to work for us, it's a very commercial environment, it's a very frenetic environment, so being able to collaborate, being able to work with other people is absolutely brilliant, because that's what you're going to be doing on a daily basis. Brilliantly, if you do it on your own too, that's fine, but, you know, collaboration is excellent. But the fact that, you know, it's the biggest part of your CV for me, that you complete a film, that you've told the story, you've been through the whole process, and you've something to stand over. There's nothing worse than when you meet a student and they say, well, I didn't get my film finished, and, you know, this went wrong, and then you just kind of go, warning signs, you know. Whereas the person who gets it done, you know, it just automatically puts them on the radar. So
there's also the thing, if you're doing a film, and say a lot of guys want to have, like, we really good animators. I want to just be an animator, and then you're doing a film and you have to do backgrounds and comp and writing the story and everything else. If you're collaborating and get someone that's really good at storyboarding, someone with the story, you focus on what you really want to do and get really good at that and do it that way. So it makes more sense that way as well, and that way you will have your great film at the end of it, you know.
And it is good to switch around. I mean, even Tom Moore has done 2 films now pretty well, and he keeps telling me, jeez, I'm pretty crap at that drawing. He's better than me at that drawing. He's trying to learn the software, the compositing software, when he goes back now, because he wants to know how the compositing software works. So then he can direct people. So if you have an opportunity to do a different aspect of the production as well, when you're, you know, if you want to, I mean, you'll grow into being, you'll probably get put into a place in the studio to do that storyboarding, and some people make careers out of being storyboarders or animators. But if you have the opportunity to understand how do they composite that, and
learn and do, because there's so many courses you can do online now. Tom's actually going to spend €700 to do the compositing online course, or painting for comics because he wants to be a better painter. Because Adrian was such a good painter, and so let's see, he's going, I want to try and be as good as that. So he's learning how to watercolor. So he's always trying to learn new things and learn how. So you need to be curious about how things are made. So then when you come to the point where you have to direct somebody doing that, if you want to be a director, you need to know what problems they're about to face as well. You know.
I think it takes a certain amount of maturity as well, creative maturity, to collaborate properly. I mean, you can collaborate, you can make stuff together, and I think when you're open and when you are not. So one you mentioned about not being precious about your ideas. I think you can be precious to. You can be precious until you're proved wrong, And I think the more creative people, really good creative people you've got on a project, the better it's going to be, because the more creative brain power. And I think it takes a certain amount of creative maturity to realise that sometimes all the good ideas don't come from yourself, and it's about being open and honest with yourself, and that's when great things happen.
I also think as well it's an important thing that we talked about talent and all, but I think attitude for us is really 70, 80, 90%, because you will just by being in studio learn at an exponential rate. From when you leave college, you just look, every year in college is like you're going to learn 4 years in the studio. You're just learning so quickly. But if you've got the right attitude, you'll really go places. Like, because you do put the work in. It is a fun job. I mean, it's a great job, and it can be very stressful. There's no, we'd all kind of buy into that, but I think if you've got a good attitude and you're taking that step by step, you'll certainly go places. That's very important for Kavaleer. People have the right attitude, and we're really happy with the team we have. Everybody's so positive, it's great to have it.
Yeah. On the attitude thing, sorry, like when we interview for people, it's literally attitude first, talent is like a close second. But you can nurture talent. Talent is like the way we formalise what talent is passion, education, and practice over time. That's what it is. If you have that, and you have the attitude to keep that going, you will become really talented. But if you have the attitude to do that, is what's more important than that.
Well, actually, and even companies like Pixar have the same philosophy. They don't care how good an individual artist is. If they can't fit the team, they're gone.
Yeah, that was in the panel you were on a few years ago. I had to mention somebody, and he was brilliant.
We had a very basic.
Couldn't let the person in the door, just basically because it was just.
We basically have a no asshole rule. It's just very simple. You start saying no asshole rule. It's just as you can work well with others, and it's all about communication. Yeah. There's like one of those things in the airport when you walk through and you put your hands up. What's that? I know it sounds awful, but no, it's very important to be able to talk and listen to people and communicate really well with people, because when you go out to pitch, you find the same thing. You have to be able. It happens all when you're going out to pitch to buyers. You have to be able to communicate it.
We're almost out of time, but we could probably do one or two.
What does the panel think in terms of how will the arrival of overseas companies like Mercury Film setting up in Ireland, how will that impact?
Damn Mercury Film.
Yeah, before we answer that, we'd just like Alan Gregg to leave the room, please.
Alan, there's the helicopter outside. Do you see it? Oh, it's a great crack. Look at the helicopter. No, I welcome it. I love it. I want Alan to move down to Kilkenny, actually. I want him to, because we want more animators in Kilkenny, because we're a little lonely down there. There's only us, and then we're like the one island. In Dublin, at least, there's a few of the boys together, and if we can't give work to somebody after they're 6 months, then they could just walk across the road to Brownbag or Kavaleer or anybody. So we're kind of lonely in Kilkenny. So I want another company down there and to be friends with, and go out and talk about things.
For us, look. The Irish animation industry is brilliant. It's really, really strong. The talent is there, the people are there. We grow more studios, more people will stay here, there'll be more jobs here, and we'll get even stronger and stronger. It'll compound upon itself. So having more people and international companies coming into us, to me, is a good thing. It's positive. It shows that international, like Canadians and North Americans, everyone look at Ireland now for a place of talent.
And also we're all making our own IP more and more now. I mean, everybody's generating their own project. It's different if we were just purely a service industry, like we used to. We're just going to be like working for the man because we're the cheapest gig in town. They're always going to find somewhere in China or somewhere in India that's cheaper. So creating the intellectual property, developing the directors here, developing writers here that are going to create the new content that might become the next Peppa Pig, or to build those things. That's the future of animation in Ireland. Like our own stories told well, and you can tell a story, and it's. I don't want to blow our own trumpet, but it's been quite nice to see that Song of the Sea is completely Irish. It's like they say Jesus, Mary and Joseph, Jeannie Mac and Holy Mackerel, and that still works in the US. They don't mind. I think almost like Chris O'Dowd or somebody has legitimised the Irish accent again. So like, don't be afraid of telling like a purely Irish story, but authentic to Ireland, but is translatable, to other places.
But just to answer it seriously, Nico, I think it's. I do think, the only drain probably will be on resources and stuff like that, which again is great for people in this room. If you're looking for a job, it's fantastic. There probably will be a bit more competition, and ultimately, though, I mean, we tend to get most of the funding for our projects in the tax break and stuff like that, so that's not going to come under threat. That's like, it's not a finite amount of money or anything like that. So, yeah, in the long run, I don't see it as a negative thing at all.
I'm going to take a different angle. I'm going to be controversial. Actually, being controversial, I'm the only person who's actually shaved here today as well. Is that a northern thing, is it?
It just falls down from here.
Nothing against international companies coming in and setting up, but do you know what? What's even better is as more indigenous companies, it's more people making more things from here, from Ireland. And I think that's got it. That will. I think that's the only way that the industry will grow, because when we grow from within, and when people, when you guys, are going to be on a stage like this, talking about your story, and I think that's, and international companies can come in, and that's great, but they're not really Irish companies as such, because what we were talking about earlier on is that we take what we have in terms of that culture and that storytelling ability. I would love to see more of us doing what we do.
I think as well, it's just, I know you mentioned more Irish studios. I was talking to lads earlier on, and that since CEO Forum set up and became Animation Ireland, there was like 12, 13 companies, and say 6 or 7 were on the scale who were doing like large enough shows. There's now like, there are about 24 in that booklet at Kids Screen. There's 24 companies. So we have the same engine in terms of the funding that we get, and the funding hasn't increased at all in the last 7 years. A little bit here, and the tax credit is amazing, that's going to make a big difference. But with the same engine pulling twice as many carriages, and that's has to be mentioned. Obviously, a new company coming in, like I welcome it in terms of the talent and upping the bar in terms of our crew and everybody's crew, how get better, and obviously bringing the talent in is important. But I think my concern would be, how are we going to fund all these companies and how are they going to grow? Because for Animation Ireland to grow and to get better and stronger and really, move forward as we've been moving forward the last 7 8 years, we need more fuel. We need more funding. So I think
you're made of plastic. You're actually made of plastic.
So that's on my cue to stop. But no, I think that's important. It is a very important point, because animation has done very well. Kavaleer has obviously done very well on with the film board, and they've been very supportive. But I think we need to push on now. We need more support. And as I said, the tax credit, like having just come back from Miami, it's going to be great for the country. It really is.
But on a global scale, I mean, I think people are looking for more and more content. There's so many channels out there with the whole explosion of digital. It's only going to get bigger. I think people are always going to be looking for the next big thing, the next great thing, and so it's up to ourselves to up our game. And I think the more people that come in, the more competition that there is. I mean, we can never get complacent, so
I think it's a good thing. Nico, to answer your point on that, I think the tax credit now is 32%, and it's made Ireland a very attractive country to carry out work. And we welcome companies like Mercury Films. My overall fear is that that we don't import call centres. And I think this is something that the film board also support, is that it's very important that we have top creative spend, and I would actually like to see the Section 481 32% tax credit being more attached to the creative spend, because we're at the forefront of storytelling. We're a small island. We'll never be able to compete, with the eastern countries in terms of price per minute and labour costs going forward. So to stay at the forefront and to really grow the industry and to make it into a sector where there's long-term jobs for everybody, is to really use our talents as storytellers. That's about promoting writers, it's about having directors, it's about having creators. Now if companies come in to use Ireland just to use the tax credit, and they just wash work through here, and they don't use writers locally, and they just have their scripts written when they come in, if they bring in their own directors, people will get jobs, but it's not in the long-term good of the industry. So
I'm sure Alan is going to just hire every student in here.
So I think I think creative spend in Ireland at the top level will create many jobs, and it's really important that we support Irish writers, Irish directors, and people who create and originate IP. Because if you have that, jobs will fall from that. So I do think that the tax credit should actually have some addendums to it, maybe in creative spend.
I think it's a happy medium. I think, there certainly is I think there's a happy medium. Like, obviously, as Gerard said, tax credit's going to bring in new business, which obviously Irish writers will pay off. You would hope so, and Irish designers and directors. It's just coming in, as Gerard said, and just bringing in, that's one thing. But what it does bring, it brings in talent base, it ups the ante for the other producers and other directors in Ireland. So I think there is a kind of a level ground there that, it can be positive. And I would see the tax credit as a very positive step forward. I think it's going to bring a lot of work to Ireland, a lot of companies. And if those companies come in and they hire Kavaleer to do a large service gig, and we're an IP studio, if they bring us and ask us to do a large service gig, we'll take it on. And what that will do to Kavaleer is that it will obviously fund the company, it will help more development or more IP. So I think it is very important.
But I'd say as well, we've done a lot of work with Disney and studios like that. And when they first came to us, it was a case that they wanted a US director on board. Only because we hadn't done stuff to that scale before, and they wanted a Los Angeles this, somebody that. So it was that case where you're arguing against Gerard. But since then, one of the directors who got in, Norton Vergine, he's still in Ireland nearly 6 years later. He loves it here, he's working with us all. And
he's training people.
7 or 8 of our people who started off, some of them ex-Dunleary students, Ballyfermot students, came in, started scanning drawings. They're now directing episodes for Disney because they've trained under Norton. And they're it's 8 people that have just grown up, and it's been a fantastic learning ground.
There's also the fact that one of the catalysts for Ireland's animation industry was Don Bluth coming over, which was an international company. So it happens again and enjoys the industry more. Why not?
I think we're.
The gentleman over there had a question on his hand twice here.
I just want to ask about, we talked a lot about collaboration and stuff like that there. I noticed last night with Song of the Sea there was a lot of international collaboration, like working with studios in Western Europe and in Denmark, places like that there. And I was wondering, a lot of different Irish studios have done a lot of international collaboration. And I was thinking, would it, in your own opinion, be beneficial for students in colleges to be encouraged to do more exchanges and mingles with kind of studios in France and Belgium and stuff like that there, in colleges in France at the student level?
Well, first of all, go to Annecy. If you're a student in Europe, if you're a student in Ireland, don't miss out going to Annecy. Brilliant experience, but you'll meet all the other students too. And I think that'd be a great initiative. I mentioned it too before to a few of the colleges that they should go try to do exchanges with some of the ones that are really kind of seem to have it working, or and then they'll learn from us, and about other things, So definitely good idea.
Yeah, and I think that's how any of us, even as fledgling studios, that's how we learned a lot, was going to studio or going to festivals, meeting our international counterparts, and it's first of all you get to know the person, then you find the project. So I think getting out, traveling as much as you can, just meeting other people, it's essential.
Because none of us were going to be able to make a TV series just out of Ireland, so we had to learn very, very quickly that we need to make our way out to New York, to Cannes, to the MIPCOMs, and just figure out how it's all done and sell it elsewhere. That's why we get great support from the Enterprise Ireland with Eileen Belzy and stuff like that, because we're an export industry, so we can get money to export our goods, which is our international IP, international property, our intellectual property. International intellectual property.
Okay, that's it. Thanks, everybody.